Hey everyone, welcome to another YouTube painting process video. This time around, as usual, I am going to paint something from Deadlock, Bebop, the robot, and appropriate to this character, I'll be talking about AI art and how you can beat AI with your own work. If you've been following my other social media, especially Instagram, you probably would have seen me discuss AI art quite extensively over the years. And I've made my points on YouTube as well, where I've largely dismissed it by now. I don't think AI art will ever take over human beings because it's been soulless, it's been years, and it hasn't shown that it's been able to go over the curve when it comes to soulful art. All the topics, all the ways I've discussed with AI art can be summarized with the idea that you really don't want to be robotic with your art. Now, there's going to be people who are going to hate on this opinion, so don't take this as the definitive way of how things will be. It's just my opinion on what artists should do moving forward and my theory on how to defeat it. And it's going to seem unfair for sure. When I was growing up and when I was going through school, there was still a major role in people who are very technical when it comes to their arts. And what I mean by technical is that there are industries like industrial design where you're designing toys, there's architecture, you're designing buildings, obviously. Those things are extremely technical and high skill. And yes, it got a bit easier when the tools became digital, where there's AutoCAD and there's other programs, whatever is popular now, where these digital software can make it easier for the architects and whatever to use and get their technical ideas out. And yes, it was very impressive, and there was no way for AI. There wasn't even AI back then, so they couldn't even have found replacements. So if you were very technical with these sort of things, you're going to have a very good time when it comes to finding jobs and finding client work. Now, moving forward with AI, however, is the fact that these jobs might be the first to go, unfortunately. And the reason being is fairly obvious. And I mean this with no disrespect. A lot of this very technical art is not really that soulful. It's not something that you're putting your opinions down, and as an artist, there's an artistic vision and that sort of thing. There's really just a very mathematical approach when it comes to these sort of things. So if you're designing a vehicle, there's only so much you can do before you have to be very tight with your technical lines and your measurements and that sort of thing. As you would imagine, this sort of stuff, this very robotic stuff, is going to be done quite well by the AI because it's such a technical thing. Now, granted, you're probably still going to need a designer to curate the AI outputs, but what I mean is that AI will most likely be able to churn out thousands and thousands of, let's say, car designs for your video game, and you just need one person to figure out which ones they want to use. The skill of having to draw them out, render them and such, I think that's probably gonna go away when AI art becomes really prevalent, because again, it's such a digital and computerized and technical thing that you can do with your art skills. Don't shoot the messenger here. It's just what I think is likely going to happen. The most technical stuff will go first. In fact, this is already happening in a lot of game studios because they're using AI for a lot of these remedial textures that you see in environments, for instance. So let's say you need a lot of randomized rock textures. That's a very technical thing, and AI is able to do that pretty well. So knowing this, the opposite could also be true, where the less technical you are, and the more you put in your human errors, so to speak, the better you are at hedging against AI. And honestly, even before the idea of AI came to light, it's something that every artist has to figure out for themselves, because being very technical and learning in art school all the fundamentals of art, you're probably going to need to abbreviate a lot of things and simplify a lot of things to your liking to find your unique style. So either way, you're probably going to have to bust a lot of these technical ideas out, use them though, in order to figure out what you want to do for your illustrations or whatever. And I find that the best art styles for professionals are the ones where they break logic in a very human way. Now, what that means will vary between different artists and styles, but they always have that little quirk that seems to make their work unified while being a little bit in the not technical side of things. So perhaps they draw eyes a certain way that isn't perfectly technical, but it just works with the way they paint. Perhaps they're using colors that are a little bit quirky, that isn't logical to the real world, and something that AI probably wouldn't understand why the artist would do it, but it just seems to work. There's always these little things that artists do that will give them the unique signature in a very weirdly illogical way, but it also seems to make sense for them. And this is where AI will always falter. They may try to replicate and copy what you train them to copy, but they're not able to understand why these artists choose to add those little quirks into each individual piece. So speaking for myself and seeing my own AI trained art when I'm testing it myself, and also seeing the models that they have on me, I noticed that there are a lot of things that AI tries to replicate and try to copy from me, but it's not placed in the right situations and scenarios. So it just looks random while having no sense of the decision making that I went through when I am adding those little quirks that I have in my own artwork. So, in conclusion, your goal to beat AI art is just simply don't be a technical robot adhering to the rules. You want to be able to interpret the rules that you learn from art fundamentals and such. Use them to your advantage. Be human with your own style. You want to cherish what makes you an individual. And AI art will never be able to take that away from you. Again, like with all my AI art talking points, don't quote me if, let's say, AI suddenly becomes so good that they are able to detect this stuff too, and we just lose all our jobs. But given the trajectory, and that I've talked about this for well over half a decade by now, so far it still hasn't figured that out, and that's a good thing for us humans. Anyways, this is Bebop from Deadlock as usual. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, the usual YouTube stuff. Check out my social media links down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.